Hi friends from everywhere. How are we doing today? Today is an exciting day because we're going to focus in on ways to begin strengthening our intuition, which is so exciting because it's sort of like the core of everything that we do here in, aligning with higher levels of source clarity and things of that nature. So it's pretty exciting. We've had like seasons where we go, deep dives into intuition. But today's pretty exciting. Now, if you are someone that's already developed your intuition, this is totally for you. If you have not developed your intuition, this is also totally for you. I want you to take sort of like little mental notes of maybe for those that have already developed their intuition, maybe you hear new things in developing, in talking about the foundation stuff, but we're also going to get into some new things I haven't talked about. But I want to focus in on something sort of specific today that has to do with the beginning process in developing your intuition. It's where intuitives that have already developed their intuition, they get a little bit tripped up. So I want to share a story, and I want to see if you guys can extract the lesson from this story, okay? And this has to do with developing our intuition. So, for those that know a little bit about my story, I lived out in LA for like about 4 or 5 years, and it was in the beginning of that journey that I began to develop my intuition and learn about it and get excited about it. And it was difficult for me because I was oscillating between, is this emotion or is this my intuition? Is this my emotion? Is this my intuition? Now, living in Los Angeles, I am surrounded by chaos, right? I am surrounded by everyone else's thoughts of who they think they should be. It is high energy. And through that process, it is a little bit difficult, and I'm still, I moved there when I was 20, and I was just, not to sound like kind of cliche here, figuring out who I am, right? And so we talk about this idea of source clarity. It is tapping into your highest levels of clarity through source, whatever that word means to you, right? That higher power. So this time in my life, I have all these influences within my mind about who I should be, what I should be doing, right? Not necessarily understanding this idea of a true nature path, thinking I'm on my right path. My point with this is that my mind was filled with this word that we frequently use, which is congestion, nonsense. It is just sort of filled with these illusions. And so as I'm developing my intuition, I'm having a blast, especially when I'm doing it with like-minded friends, and we're pulling information that seems like it's coming out of thin air, but, and for those that have developed your intuition, you know what it's like, especially in the beginning, you're like, holy shit, this is awesome. Then you're reading other people. It's like way easier than reading yourself at first. But then I'm going in, in my own life, and I'm doing it myself. And I'm having sort of like difficulties, and I'm having moments of breakthrough, then I'm having moments of difficulty. I'm having moments of breakthrough, I'm having moments of difficulty. So for those that have developed their intuition, who can relate to that feeling? There we go. All of us. Yes, we can relate to that. It's exciting, it's fun. We're sort of on this emotional roller coaster. We're going high, we're going low, right? We're like what I like to call law of opposing force, right? We are experiencing this elated feeling in regards to intuition. But because everything in this universe, it's actually built on perfect balance, the universe has to bring us down, and we have to experience the negatives. And the idea that we know, for those that have developed their intuition, is that it is about seeing both. It is like being an athlete, right? Developing your intuition is like becoming an athlete. You have to lean into the challenges. And so around the pandemic, my lease was up in my apartment, okay? And there's actually some stories that I can use to support the lesson that go before this, but I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and we'll see if we'll rewind. So my lease is up in my apartment, and I'm living with roommates at the time, and I go home to my parents' house, and the plan was to be there only for about a couple of weeks. And I didn't have a pull to go back to Los Angeles. Now, as things began to close in the world, like, businesses were closing down, the world was sort of in this unknown, my stay turned into longer than 2 weeks. And it was sort of a refreshing moment in my life. But there was this moment because, I hadn't really questioned where I was going to go in the world up until the world shutting down and not having an intuitive pull to go to Los Angeles. This was a little bit frightening for Nikki, right? I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, the plan was like to come home for a couple of weeks, go back to Los Angeles. And so I'm going through this, developing my intuition, frustration, and I'm attempting to figure out where to go, but I'm not getting a clear intuitive signal, okay? And this is the most important part of this story right here in extracting the lesson that I want to hear from you guys. There was a time that I finally sat my butt down, okay? And I went into this meditative state. And some of you may have already heard this story. Great. I want you to see if you can extract a lesson from it. I went into this meditative state, and I heard, and it took me a while. And I began to communicate with the higher self, which, for those that don't know, is that it's the true self, it's the authentic self, it's who you really are. And I was able to sort of, turn down the noise of the mind and tap into sort of that rest and digestive system, that parasympathetic nervous system, and tap back more into me. And through this process, I began to hear accurate information. The first word I heard in regards to what are my next steps, like where do I live, was travel. And I was like, travel? I'm like, I don't know. And I started to get into my head again. And then because I was nervous, I didn't want to get on a plane because of COVID. I was like, I don't want to be around people right now. But then as I calmed my nervous system again, what did I hear? I heard van life. I'm like, well, I don't want to get a van. And I continued to ask questions until I legitimately heard what car I needed to buy, where I needed to go. And I heard I needed to buy a Jeep. I needed to live in that Jeep and travel the US. And I did, and long story short, I did for about 6 months. Now the point with this story, okay, and by the way, I went on this exploration of self, and it was one of the most incredible experiences I had in understanding myself on deeper and deeper levels. And it led me to the next part of my adventure. And it was through this adventure that actually really kick-started my business, kick-started social media. It really put me on my path. When I was living in Los Angeles, I had one foot in sort of for those that don't know, I sing and write songs, singer-songwriter, sort of healer, intuitive. These travels changed the trajectory of my life in a way that's almost difficult to describe, okay? So I want to ask you guys a question. What was the point of this story? What's the lesson to extract from here in developing our intuition? What do you guys got for us? You know what? Oh, yeah, yes, go for it. Go for it.
I'm saying trust, you might not be able to see the path or see what will happen or know why, but trusting the information you get and just taking the next step instead of trying to figure out.
This is really good. Yes, let's get a little more specific. That's really good, though. That's right on the path of what I'm getting at here. What else do we got? You know what? Just because I frequently pick on Caitlin in Source Clarity Club, Caitlin's like, God dang, I show my face and Nikki calls me out. Caitlin, what do you got for us?
You do pick on me all the time.
Caitlin's you're like, this is my last webinar I'm coming to. Go for it.
Let's see.
And don't worry about it, Caitlin. If nothing comes to mind, I can go too.
No, I'm gonna try.
Okay, cool.
At least something that was sticking out to me was the recalibration of taking a moment to really return back to your breath and yourself, to be able to get some clarity, to be able to actually hear your intuition. So it was this emotions were high, and then taking a moment to regulate yourself to really hear.
Yes, nailed it. And you both are on the same exact sort of wavelength as to what the reason why I share this story, okay? If I were to just sort of explain this, a black and white version of it, there was a point in my life where I was taking myself a little bit too seriously. I was so caught in this idea of should. It wasn't until I sat my butt down and I decreased my emotion. Now, this word, for those that develop your intuition, okay, rule number 1 in developing intuition, which is what? What's rule number 1? Who knows what our rule number 1 is in developing intuition? Caitlin, go for it.
Having fun.
Yes.
And there's a customer here. So.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it is having fun. Why? Why is having fun essential in developing our intuition? because we can take ourselves too seriously. Now, it might sound kind of interesting to you that Nikki's way of having fun is meditating, but essentially meditation, right, allow me to decrease my emotion and let go of taking myself so seriously. Now, again, if you're new in developing your intuition, great. If you've already developed your intuition, I want you to hear this lesson. The thing that disrupts us from aligning with that true nature path, getting more of the things that we're asking for. And I see advanced intuitives sort of look over this fundamental step, which is tapping into the playfulness, tapping into, like Caitlin said, recalibration space. We have to sit ourselves down and find time to create space. Okay? One of the ways that we receive intuitive information, okay, for those that know me, you've frequently heard me talk about the heart. The heart's got about 40,000 neurons, and science will call that like a little nervous system in the heart, the heart brain. But I'm sure you guys have heard out there in the world, the gut as well has over 100 million neurons and is interacting with your conscious brain via the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the most important and longest nerve in your body, within your parasympathetic nervous system, and it goes through your gut, and it's called who knows what it's called, the entrance something nervous system, something. Okay, someone might have to fact check me on this, but enteric, got it. Oh, I blinked there. I kept hearing intrinsic. Enteric nervous system. Okay. My point with this, okay, we're hearing the word parasympathetic nervous system. What is the parasympathetic nervous system? It has to do with what?
Is that the one that regulates your breathing on its own, your heartbeat?
Yes, digestion, rest, all of it. Yep, you got it exactly. So I'm sharing this with all of you. Yeah, opposite of fight or flight, which is the sympathetic response, right? The sympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic nervous system, okay, is your rest and digestion, okay? When you are more recalibrated, when you are more tapped into these energies of play, when you are more reset, that is when you have more access to intuitive information. The gut, again, over 100 million neurons, is picking up on the subtleties not only of its internal environment, but also the external environment, and is receiving subtle information from facial cues to energy. You know, the list goes on and on and on, and is sending that information to the brain before the conscious brain has the ability to detect and decode what's going on. Okay? So intuition isn't just this woo-woo thing. It is your, all aspects of you made up of energy interacting with the world, but it requires us. I want you guys to get this. Again, if you've already developed your intuition or you're new, the first step in developing your intuition is to have fun. But today's lesson is sort of a part two. Or I guess these two lessons go side by side. It's to play, but also create space, also reset, also to recalibrate, and give your body an opportunity to pull objective information and letting go. Because what I was experiencing when I was living in LA, yes, I was having fun developing my intuition. It was freaking great. But I also found myself taking myself too seriously. And I remember the moment, and this is before I ever created an intuition course, where I was like, this is going to be rule number one in developing intuition, is having fun. Because it was when I began to sort of let go of taking things so seriously, and then I found time to actually reset my nervous system, that I began to get more accurate information. And so even throughout my travels, I would have to reset, sit, and reset could look like play, not take it so seriously. It could look like meditation. And I sort of decrease that emotional high, tap back into neutrality, and now I begin to access more intuitive information. Because here's the truth. Your intuition is objective. Okay, when we have either an emotional high or an emotional low, that is going to distort the intuitive information that we pull through. And for a long time, like, it's been a huge lesson for me in understanding that if we are having a difficult time pulling intuitive information, not only is it reflective, it's not necessarily like, and I really want you guys to get this, it's not necessarily just reflective in your intuitive skill set. And what happens is we might pull misinformation, quote unquote, but it has nothing to do with our skill set. It's life teaching us to let go of taking things so seriously. It might be life teaching us to ask better questions, right? It might be, it's basically, it's like we think it means something about us intuitively, but it has something to do with another area of life. And a lot of the times it's letting go of taking things so seriously. So I want you guys to ask yourselves this question this week, like, how can I begin to let go of taking, and you can integrate this in all areas of life, but especially with intuition. How can I begin to let go of taking myself so seriously and developing this intuitive skill set? And how can I begin to sort of integrate moving forward when using my intuition, a little bit more play, a little bit more fun? Like when we are kids, we are tapped in, like our curiosity and our play, they go hand in hand, right? Like you don't think of learning as something that is difficult. You're like in the sandbox, like eating sand because you're curious what it's going to taste like, and then you learn, right? You guys are like, Nikki, I think you're the only one that did that. Like, I didn't do that. That's just you, buddy. Okay, I had to learn. It takes me a little bit longer to learn. But when you're a child, you're like leaning into your excitement. So I want you guys again this week to begin to ask yourself this question: how can I begin to integrate sort of intuitive pulls, or move forward with my intuitive pulls, but also throw play in there, joy in there. Also recalibration, create a little bit more space, decrease that sort of elevated emotion to get back into the objectivity of the spirit self. Now, I want to sort of go through the process, okay, of developing the beginning steps of developing intuition, and then we're going to get into a Q&A. So once again, the first rule in developing intuition is to have fun, okay? And now that just looks like, when you're like about to pull intuitive information, that just looks like an intention, okay? So when you're wondering, Nikki, how do I do this? That's great. Meditation, that's great. Not taking myself so seriously, that's great. Literally the simplicity in intention, okay? I'm gonna pull intuitive information and I'm gonna tap into play. Step number 2 in developing our intuition, who knows that answer? Breath. We focus on the breath, okay? So we want to get ourselves we can do this a couple of different ways. About a 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale. I'm just gonna like take this clip of me breathing and you guys staring at me as like, join the next webinar. Okay. Okay, and a lot of you guys know this step-by-step process, but we're going through it anyway, because I actually have sort of a new way I haven't talked about quite a bit. The next step in developing our intuition is what? Who knows? Vanessa, I feel like picking on you because it's been a little while since I've really picked on you. What's another step, right? If we want to pull an intuitive yes and an intuitive no, what is our next step?
I know you've missed picking on me. The next, have fun, take a pause.
What do we have to connect with?
Now, are you meaning like connecting with the body?
Close, yeah, but what do we have to like, if we don't want to pull intuitive information from like absent of light, what's like sort of an essential step?
Setting the intention to connect with source,
yes,
or your higher self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so anytime you develop your intuition, it is essential that we connect with source. Source is we're referring to that all that is energy, right? And you also want to set an intention to connect with the center of Mother Earth, right? So first step, we're setting an intention to play. We're setting an intention to recalibrate. Number 2, we're actually resetting, okay, by focusing on the breath. The breath aligns us with the objectivity of the spirit self. Once again, when Nikki was in LA, I was absorbing all the chaos of my environment. And so most of us, the mind is filled. It's kind of like loud music at a party. And it's intuition's like attempting to hear a pin drop in a crowded room filled with that loud music. So how do we turn down that noise? Breath. Okay? Focusing on the breath, it gives us an opportunity to observe the chaos within the mind, allow it to dissolve. And as we're focusing on this breath, we then want to connect with source energy. Okay, like Vanessa so beautifully said. Then we connect with the energy of Mother Earth. Okay? And then the next step in developing our intuition, and also with that step in connecting with source, you want to say an affirmation along the lines of, I choose to only pull information from source in my higher self and any energy associated with light. Okay? And again, a number of you know these steps, but the fundamentals are, I could go over them all day because they're that important. Now, what we have talked about frequently in pulling an intuitive yes or no that I'll give you guys here, but I'd also actually want to give another way that I haven't talked about much, is once you've gone through these steps, you can begin to actually connect with higher self and say, higher self, show me yes. Okay? And you're going to look for like an expanded feeling somewhere in the physical form. It's important that when you're asking questions, you ask them as statements. So instead of saying like, higher self, can you show me yes? You're going to say, higher self, show me yes. And you want to ask it 3 times out loud. And you want to identify where you feel that yes in the physical body. So it might be in the chest. It might be in the third eye. Caitlin, where do you feel your yes? Yeah.
I feel it mostly in my third eye.
Okay.
Sometimes in the back of the head.
Cool. Has it moved for you ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it started in my like heart area and kind of in my gut area, and then it eventually moved more up to like third eye area.
Love that. Yeah, and so that's something important to know, is that when you begin to pull your yes, it may be there for a couple of months and it may evolve. You don't have to worry about that right now. But when you pull that intuitive yes, you want to look for that yes feeling. Now, another question for you, Caitlin. When you began developing your intuition and looking for that yes and no, was that difficult at first?
Oh, that was the hardest part.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was. I think that it was. I had a lot of an experience of like overthinking what I should be feeling every yes or no, and kind of like anticipating where I maybe should be feeling it, and then kind of questioning it, like, was that a yes? Was that a no?
Yeah.
So it was pretty difficult.
Yes.
At first.
And so the reason why, and I'm sharing this with you, and I'm so glad Caitlin shared it, is because, again, it has everything to do with the beginning of Nikki's journey. Is most of us are taking on the energies of our environment. We have unresolved emotional wounds from childhood. We have all these, all these illusions within the mind that influence our emotions. So I want you guys to give yourself some grace for those that are new in developing their intuition. But even if you've already developed your intuition, right, and part of your brain's like, well, Nikki, we've already learned this. Going back to this understanding and this fundamental perspective of to pull accurate intuitive information is going to require you to decrease your emotion through recalibration, through play, okay, is game changing. So when you're new to this, it might take you a second. Give yourself some grace. And the follow-up question is going to be your no, right? Like, higher self, show me no, higher self. And you're going to ask that 3 times. I would ask it out loud as a statement, show me no. And you're going to look for more of a restricted feeling in the physical form. It might be third eye, it might be gut, it might be chest. Vanessa, where do you feel your no?
Usually like right in the midline area.
Yeah, okay.
Body.
And now did your no evolve?
Well, sometimes it's just like it's more concentrated in a specific area. Like sometimes it'll be just the throat. Sometimes it'll be just under the ribs.
Yeah.
it'll be like just like a smaller concentration versus like the whole
Uh-huh.
middle of my body just being like
Yes. And then how was it for you, same as Caitlin, like when you first began developing your intuition, and specifically with that yes or no? What was that difficult for you? Like, what was that like?
I was fortunate in that I had a form of yes no through muscle testing,
Mm-hmm.
like body leans and things like that. But when I was trying to do the yes no in the body, it was difficult at first.
Yes.
And it was hard to pinpoint like what Caitlin was saying, like anticipating, like, okay, like, am I supposed to feel it here? Am I supposed to feel it there?
Mm-hmm.
But it did. I just more focused on like expansion, wherever I could feel expansion.
Nice.
And that kind of took away the expectation of where specifically in the body I should feel it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, where do I feel like a release or a burst of energy?
Yeah, and I love
Or
that.
yes.
I love that. And it like Vanessa's sort of describing, developing your intuition is like learning a language. Okay, and if you are like, it takes time. It takes time, and I sort of like anytime I like work with, intuitives in training. You know, what was I gonna say? Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, I'm always like thinking like 3 things ahead about what I'm gonna say, and then I'm like the current thing I'm on. You guys get it? Yeah. It takes a little bit of time, and it's knowing that these moments where it's difficult, it's that lesson that we talked about in the beginning of this, that it doesn't have something to do with your intuition, your skill set, because that's where the brain will go. Okay? And like Caitlin Jackson, how was that for you when in the beginning, right? Like developing your intuition?
Oh, it was awful. It still is sometimes, but it's like you've been talking about, it's a journey. It's sort of like you're learning and constantly like picking up on new things and learning more about yourself.
And so that, and keyword what she just said is like learning more about yourself. Like it is teaching you more than just intuition. It is teaching you play. It is teaching you letting go of taking things so seriously. It is teaching you recalibration. It is teaching you reset. It's teaching you as well, it's okay to honor the human self, right? It's okay to put your intuition down. So what I learned in developing my intuition, that I want you guys to get in the beginning of this, even if you've already developed your intuition, this is a reminder, going back to the fundamentals and understanding that this is a game of play. This is a game of, it is a reminder of joy. It is letting go of the sort of perfectionist mentality and learning to lean into the play, okay? The next way that I want you guys to practice, okay? So you have your yes and no in the physical form. Vanessa actually talked about it, which is the lean test. Okay, so I can't stand up and show you, but what you can do is you can ask your higher self a question, and a simple question along the lines of higher self, show me yes. And what will happen is you'll just begin to lean forward a little bit. Okay, you're gonna stand up straight, and then you're gonna say higher self, show me no, and you'll feel lean back. Now, when you first begin developing your intuition, for those who haven't, you do not want to ask big, giant questions. Why? It is like going to the gym. You haven't been to the gym and you're lifting 1,000 pounds. You'll strain the physical body. You want to ask extremely simple, obvious questions to develop that skill set. So when you're developing your yes and no, we've learned through the physical body, but you can also do it with the lean test. You can go, higher self, if today is a Friday, right, you can go, today is Monday. I should have flipped that, whatever. Today is Monday, and you'll lean back and like, oh my gosh, I can feel my no. And what's gonna start to happen is we attract what we're a vibrational match for. You're gonna start to develop a knowing that your intuition is brilliant. And because you attract what you're a vibrational match for, you're gonna increase your accuracy. So the beginning steps in developing your intuition is to slowly go through the fundamentals, okay? Slowly go through them, master the fundamentals. If you master the fundamentals, it is the greatest gift you can ever give yourselves. I've shared with intuitives in training that in the beginning of my intuition journey, I sort of looked over the fundamentals and I had to go all the way back, and it was difficult, but when I went through them slowly, it changed the game. So developing your intuition is more than just about developing your intuition. It is about the play. It is about recalibrating. It is about all of it. So I'm going to leave it to you guys, okay, for questions, if you guys have any questions. And then we'll get into like a little meditation. Sound good? Thumbs up? Okay. Sweet. So wait, we have some stuff written in here. And if you want to share your voice, you can raise your hand and ask a question. Do. Okay. Okay, cool. Go for it, Caitlin.
Can you give like a specific example of a way that you would integrate like playfulness and fun into your intuition? Does that make sense?
No, that is a really great question. So there's a couple of ways that I'm going to answer this. Okay, I'll give you two. One of them is going to be like an intention. So meaning, Caitlin, let's say you're using your intuition and you're having a moment where you're sort of, again, you're oscillating between this is my intuition or is this my fear? What I began to practice is in those moments go, oh, this is teaching me to let go of taking things so seriously. And I know you're at work, Caitlin, so you keep doing what you need to do. Yeah, keep doing what you need to do. So basically, it's giving yourself that permission, like just saying to yourself the power and going, I don't need to take this so seriously, and putting it down will tap you into play. So it is simply an intention. So each of you, when you're going through that frustration, it's great. There's a lot of times to like power through a little bit, practice, develop that muscle. But to also in those moments where you're like getting down on yourself, I would literally set the intention and go, play, Nikki, play. Like it's not that serious, right? And the thing that I would do, like, is like I would have times, and a lot of you know this, where I would actually like go against my intuition, and it would teach me more about my intuition. A lot of you know, like there was like when I was in LA, there was a party that human Nikki wanted to go to, but intuitively I heard no, and I was like frustrated. I was like, God, I was sitting there all night, I was overthinking, blah 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 blah, and then I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing the whole taking myself so seriously. So this next party, I heard a no. But I ended up going to the party, didn't have fun, and I learned more about my intuition. I was like, oh my gosh, wow. Not taking it so seriously, going against it is fine because I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow. So that's two. Another third way, Caitlin, that I'll give you is like I would intuitively predict basketball games, like watching a basketball game. And so like, you know, for you guys, it may not might be like a sports game, but like just intuitively practicing with your friends. For you intuitives in training, like you know, like the joy in like connecting with friends. Or like if you get stuck, asking a friend. So like truly asking yourself, Caitlin, like what is going to bring me joy in developing my intuition would be like part 3 to this. Like would reading a friend, would reading a parent, calling somebody, really integrating it like you would as a child. But really great question, Caitlin. Vanessa, go for it.
I'm kind of going through this right now of like pushing so hard that like my brain kind of burns out, and so I've actually had someone like read me and see that it's because I'm not allowing my body to catch up.
Yeah, it's...
And like I was just wondering if you experienced that, and what did you do to kind of like help with that?
This is really good. So with you, Vanessa, right now, I mean, even looking at intuitively with you, you're actually more in alignment than your brain's allowing you to realize, because a lot of the times when we push ourselves and we challenge ourselves, especially as like empathetic spiritual people, we tend to think that we're doing something wrong. When what's really happening, Vanessa, is that your higher self's like, oh no, you're doing everything right, but it's essentially growing pains is what you're experiencing right now. So looking in intuitively at your energy, you're way more in alignment than your brain's allowing you to realize currently. But it is that, and you sort of already said it with the other intuitive that looked in for you. It's body, it's your emotions, everything else catching up to the increase of frequency and vibration. So what I have done in those moments is I start to realize like the perfection in the challenge, the perfection in being tired, the perfection, like see bigger picture, Vanessa. Okay, I want you to see like the highest expression of you, Vanessa, and how everything you're experiencing now is supporting that version of you. Okay?
Okay.
Cool.
By alignment, do you mean alignment with like
true nature
abilities, or?
Yeah, your true nature path.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, higher self, like what your higher self is pulled to experience versus the human self. Yes.
How do you balance that with, like, you know, I have this business I'm trying to build, I have these content things I'm trying to do, but like my brain is like
yeah.
Like,
like you said, it's the brain, right? So the brain doesn't see right now. It's funny, your energy is totally calibrated with true nature. The brain is still like kind of questioning a little bit, and not that much actually, which is good. It's not like a ton, but it's oops. Let's let our friend in here. I want you to start to see how bigger picture challenges and pushing yourself in this way is a good thing, is positive, right? Like, because with spiritual people, like a lot of the times we're like, well, I don't want to like tap into that hustle bustle mindset. But again, it's a balance. There's a moment for recalibrating, resetting, rest and digest, right? Parasympathetic activation. But there's also those moments that is wildly beneficial to challenge yourself. And I've shared with you guys, for me, right, and I'll give you guys a little bit of like an insight to my own mind. Hosting a webinar Monday and Wednesday, man, all these limiting beliefs show up within my mind. But it's that challenge that allows me to grow. So the physical body going like, man, like if I host one webinar a month, I can promote it more. I can get, limiting belief is going, well, 2 a week, like I have to find new topics. I have to find a way. So it's all these like ways that I'm like challenging myself, but I've grown immensely, Vanessa. So I don't know if that answered your question somewhere in there. But no.
Yeah, it's like you feel guilty for taking the rest because you feel like you're not doing enough, but then you also feel like you're doing way too much.
I totally relate. And again, it's like, why is that even, and this is for all you guys right now, why is that, even that thought Vanessa's having, beneficial for her? And I typically go back to like my one main reason. If she's having that thought, most likely other people are having that thought. She's going to find her own special and unique solution that's going to be able to change millions of lives. How many people in this world feel like they're doing way too much, but they also feel like they're resting way too much? And it is a thought that makes no sense, but we all freaking have it. Flipping. I mean, so we all have it, right? So I want you to see the perfection in it. Okay. Deepika, did I say your name correctly?
Almost. Deepika.
Deepika. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
So on a similar vein, actually, I've also been training, taking an intuition course and training, and initially was very excited and all of that, practicing yes and no.
Yeah.
But still come a point where I'm just feeling very exhausted.
Yes.
I'm like, is it because of everything I'm learning, or is it like, and then again, my yes and no's were not feeling as good as they were when I started it with all that excitement. So it's kind of a mixed bag. I'm just curious if it's like the normal part, like is it just exhaustion with new information, or
it's so it is no, it's a great question, and I think everyone here can relate to it. It is a part of the adventure and the journey. Like, life source created this human experience so that we have a honeymoon phase, right? So that it gets us in and then we experience challenges, right? So like, whether it's relationships, how many people experience a honeymoon phase within spirituality? And there's new layers to it, right? Like, when I first had a spiritual awakening, I thought it was Christmas every day, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, I had a dark night of the soul. Intuition, the same thing. And so now that you're experiencing the sort of, it's not only, Deepika, a growth for you as an intuitive, but it's also going to reflect the imbalances that are happening in your life outside of intuition. So like, we can feel like, man, intuition's getting overwhelming. Like, I'm not trusting myself. Well, that has more, not so to do with intuition, it's reflective of how long we haven't trusted ourselves in general in life. And intuition just becoming that reflection. So every single person I know, intuitive, that I've trained with or that has trained in any of our offerings has gone through this experience. And it's in that overcoming that you increase that skill set, because, you know, something that I say frequently is I say the greatest teacher that we have in this world is life. Life is going to inevitably teach us lessons, but the greatest healer resides within each of us. And it's through the overcoming of those challenges that we develop our own sort of unique subtleties and ways that we overcome, so that we can relate to a certain group of people that maybe like Deepika's gonna relate to a certain group of people that Nikki could never relate to. And Vanessa's gonna interact with people that Nikki, like, so it is totally part of the process. And it always goes back for me, recalibrate and see the perfection in it. Recalibrate, play and see the perfection in it. And, you know, man, I've been on this intuitive journey for like 9 years at this point, maybe 10. And I still find these little moments of challenges, but I realize it is like being an athlete. Being an athlete, it's fun, but it is challenging to develop this muscle and have growing pains. So does that help?
Yeah, no, totally got it. I know it's my reflections as well.
Yes.
Coming up all of a sudden.
Yes.
So, makes sense.
Yeah, and it's also too, like, you know, like we said, like it's totally perfect to honor the human self and go against intuition sometimes just to play with it, because we're learning about it, right? Like when I started to go against my intuition, my intuitive skill set increased so much quicker than me wondering, me not going against it, thinking I had to be perfectly aligned with my intuition. I wanted to listen to my intuition because every time I went against it, my intuition was right. I would go to that party that my intuition told me not to go to, and I wasn't having any fun, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. I know I want to listen to my intuition. So part of play, like we talked about with Caitlin Jackson, is just whatever feels right. If it's going to feel good to go against your intuition, do that. If it's going to feel great to put it down for a week, do that. To know that, like, the thing that separates one intuitive from the rest of intuitives in the world, Deepika, is it's going to be the overcoming of this little season you're having where it feels challenging, and like seeing how that's perfect, right? Seeing how it's incredible and it's allowing you to put yourself first more, give yourself some more rest, have more fun with intuition, maybe reach out to other intuitives in training and like really get yourself in this fun. But really great question. And thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Okay, let's see. We have some comments here. Don't different people have different paths and different balances of emotions, thoughts, and body experiences? Vanessa's thought helps her because her general challenge right now is around her relationship with her body. So yes, we all have different paths, we all have different experiences. So yes, when you go through your own unique challenges and obstacles, you're going to develop unique lessons and solutions that are going to be able to help the rest of the world. Okay. Hey Nikki, I'm at the gym right now, so going to type my question. LOL. Laugh out loud. Sometimes when I do reads, the information comes in randomly. Sometimes I find myself waiting for it. Is that normal? Or is it my brain not 100% on board? It's gonna be, for you, that's just normal. I mean, like, again, we pull intuitive information in different kind of ways. And again, if it takes us a second to pull in intuitive information and we have a judgment about us, once again, it is a lesson that has something to do with a different area of life, which is to, and all lessons are to love ourselves, right? It's to love that process. It's to know that, oh, my way of pulling intuitive information is unique. So Darsh said, so is my brain finally on board? No, there are still some doubts, but the buffer doesn't have to do with the doubt, Darsh. Yeah. In the moments when you're pulling intuitive information, it doesn't have to do with the doubt. It's just your higher self taking time, right? And your human self taking time to give information that is packaged in a way for someone to be digestible for somebody. Okay, great. So let's see. Cool. All right, so we're going to get into a little meditation here, okay? And yeah, that's going to be awesome, okay? Cool. So you guys can either, for those that have your camera on, you can either leave it on or you can turn it off. It's totally up to you. and you guys can go ahead and get comfortable. It's only going to be about a 2 to 4 minute meditation, but I want you guys to sort of get into this rhythm of recalibrating, tapping into play, letting go of taking things so seriously, okay? So I want you to focus on the breath, and I want you to breathe. Let's go with this, 6 seconds in, and I want you to hold that breath for 2 seconds and release for 8. And this is an activation, again, of the parasympathetic nervous system that is responsible for rest and digestion. Where the sympathetic nervous system is responsible for your fight or flight. It has to do with survival and things of that nature. Keeping you safe. So I want you to breathe 6 seconds in, hold for 2, and release for 8. And if there's any thoughts of negativity that show up or resistance, I want you to see if you can interact with them in a playful way. Like, I actually want you to lean into, and if you don't have any negative thoughts, okay, but any thoughts of resistance, I want you to be like, I love you, and tap into a silliness, which might feel silly, but that's okay. And I want you to set an intention as you breathe in for 6 seconds and hold for 2 and release for 8 to tap in and connect with source clarity. And it's simply just an intention. And as you focus in on your 6-8 breath and you're setting an intention to connect with source clarity, I want you to set an intention to connect with golden white light from source. And imagine this golden white light make way through the Earth's atmosphere to wherever you are, filling every single cell in your physical form from head to toe. Boom, 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 boom. And then I want you to set an intention to connect with the center of Mother Earth where a pink healing light exists, and allow this pink healing light to make way through the earth and fill every single cell in your physical body from toe to head. Wow, we're doing great. And then I want you to imagine a green light at the center of your heart. Okay, like a marble-sized green light. This little sphere placed at the center of your heart, and imagine this green light expand out across your heart, out across your chest, out as far as you can possibly imagine. And I want you to repeat this affirmation within your mind. My intuition is brilliant. And I want you to, as you express this within your mind, see if you can feel it and see if you can tap into a playful silliness as you express it. I want you to say your first name in your mind. Your first name's intuition is brilliant. And tap into this playful, expressive, joyful, elevated emotion feeling. And I want you to find a memory that supports that affirmation. And we're going to sit until we feel the gratitude and appreciation for that affirmation. Your first name's intuition is brilliant. And I really want you to immerse yourself in this memory until you can feel the activation of that feeling. And maybe it takes you a second. Remember, if you have a negative thought, it's okay. That's perfect. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. I want you to feel. Your first name, I want you to say this within your mind. Your first name's intuition is brilliant. I want you to say that one more time and feel it. Your first name's intuition is brilliant. And I want you to find and immerse yourself in that current memory, feeling it. Using that memory to support your emotions. I want you to feel your heart open. And you can go back to the breath. And say that affirmation one more time, and I want you to feel it. Feel it within your mind. Your first name's intuition is brilliant. And this is a rewiring of the brain. This is how neuroplasticity happens. And if we frequently feel this thought, not just think it, frequently feel this thought, we attract what we're vibrational match for. We're actually going to increase the accuracy of our intuition. It's not that our intuition is inaccurate, it's we think it is because sometimes our feelings make us think that. I want you to say it one more time again. Your first name's intuition is brilliant, and feel the emotion. Feel that memory, feel that proof, feel that piece of evidence. And you can go and focus back on the breath. And I want you to set an intention to tap into play. See what it feels like to be playful. Focusing back in on your 6-2-8 breath, 6 seconds in, 2-second hold, and an 8-second release. And so it is. And you can come on up and open your eyes. Welcome back. Look at you all cozy in a hammock. Looks pretty epic. I like all the colors too. You guys are so wonderful. I want you to take this. I want you to see if you can integrate it through the week. Webinars are great. Webinars are fun, right? They're exciting. But I want you to see if you can integrate this in the moments where you feel set back in regards to developing your intuition. And it's going to be sort of like going through your unique way and integrating a little bit more play, a little bit letting go of taking things so seriously, whatever it may be. So you guys are so wonderful. Okay, and I think we're going to do it today. We're putting up a Source Clarity Club waitlist. It's going to be, I think we'll do an email today, but it'll be on my story on social media. So Source Clarity Club, it is 12 weeks in developing your intuition, but it is also more. Okay, you learn how to heal unresolved emotional wounds, traumas, become your own energy healer. You learn the art of self-love. It is 12 weeks of essentially becoming your own healer with the most amazing souls literally all around the world. So that wait list literally starts today. Literally can't wait. And you guys are wonderful, okay? Can't wait to see you guys next time. Thank you so much for being here in person. It literally brings my heart so much joy. All right. 2 thumbs up for you guys. All right, friends. See ya.